You are listening to I Am Interchange.
I am interchange.
I am interchange.
I am Interchange.
Fostering curiosity, education, and empathy by exploring the controversial and the provocative.
I am interchange.
Technology is directing and defining current strategic marketing trends. From LinkedIn connections to enormous MailChimp distributions, drip marketing to Google Ads, Instagram to Facebook. Companies are increasingly employing technology to determine, isolate, and engage customers in targeted multi-channel campaigns. And customers, in turn, are inundated with a tech noise jam session every time they open an inbox or launch an app. But what informs this massive marketing machine? Authentic and customized data analytics or unchecked algorithms? Are businesses riding a technology-defined tidal wave to unfettered success, or just falling for marketing's sexiest new toy in an ironic bait and switch for the ages? In this special Innovate Montana episode, Marketing Machine, How Technology is Transforming Customer Engagement, I'm Tate Chamberlin, and we will be discussing the action and efficacy of technology in marketing with an esteemed panel, including Padden Murphy, VP of Global Marketing at WeWork, Ryan Hansen, CEO of LumenAd, and Samantha Patterson, Marketing Director for Printing for Less. So welcome, everyone. Welcome to Marketing Machine. How is technology transforming customer engagement? And I know it's kind of broad right now, but I'm hoping to hone it in with these fine folks up here. We've got Samantha Patterson from Printing for Less. Padden Murphy is from WeWork. And we've got Ryan Hansen with LumenAd, and you're out of Missoula.
Yep.
So to kick things off a little bit, I'd like you to tell me a little bit about yourself, your business, and how you see technology transforming customer engagement within your company. Want to get started, Padden?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Padden Murphy. I head up strategic initiatives at WeWork. Samantha and I actually just recently found out that we're going to be related soon. Our siblings-in-law getting married. So it's a family affair up here. So WeWork is a global co-working company. So what we do is we take buildings and transform them into beautifully designed workspaces that will have anywhere from maybe 1,500 to 3,000 members inside of a building, about 150 to 300 member companies. So it's everything from freelancers to startups to mid-sized companies, law firms, accounting firms, and even Fortune 500 companies. So the idea is that basically, whether you have a kind of what we call a hot desk, or a one-person office, or a five-person office, or a 500-person office, an entire floor, you'll have your private space, but then you have shared amenities and community areas. So you kind of actually create a real sort of community and village inside of a building. So I think and in past life, I had worked at Lyft, and before that at a peer-to-peer car sharing company called GetAround. And what I would say is the primary objective, at least how I think about how to use technology in marketing, is it kind of like comes back to first principles of what is the product that you're building that either solves a need or a desire for folks that they actually really want, and then in terms of a brand, what is your story that actually speaks to something that is bigger, that tells the ambition and something bigger than what the product naturally is. And technology then is an opportunity to connect those things to the customer quickly and kind of get them to the experience a lot faster. And then if they need a human kind of engagement to close a sale or for customer support, that it expedites that process as quickly as possible. So in the case of WeWork, as we've grown, really technology has been a tool to be able to figure out how to reach the right type of customer quickly so they can kind of self-select. If you're a freelancer, you need a different sort of use case and product than if you're a Fortune 500 enterprise. So that's really where kind of technology is able to help people kind of self-select and then get to the right answers and relevant information, and ultimately a human if they need help as quickly as possible.
Thanks, Padden. Want to go, Samantha?
Sure. You're probably wondering why someone with print as their background is on the stage talking about technology and automation, but we go by PFL now, but we're Printing for Less just over the hill in Livingston. And we were the first e-commerce print company, and we serve customers nationwide, and we've been doing that for over 20 years. But more recently, in the last 5 years, we have started creating marketing technology that helps marketers send personalized and data-driven direct mail as part of their marketing and sales processes. So just like someone might send an automated email based on what they have collected about you and your activity, they can now, if email's not working and not getting through, there's a lot of clutter in everybody's lives, they can now send a very customized direct mail piece or package that speaks directly to the person and then do some digital follow-up. So I really see technology transforming customer engagement because now we have the ability to have more data-driven interactions with our consumers and with our customers. And the key is really leveraging that data to provide more personal experiences versus just scaling up your batch and blast. So it's a trick, and I think you really have to think through your strategy on how are you going to maintain some intimacy while still reaching out to people at scale.
I'm Ryan Hansen. I'm the founder and CEO of LumenAd. LumenAd is an advertising management platform. Think operating system for marketers and paid media teams, where combining kind of process plus workflow automation plus business intelligence. We're headquartered in Missoula, and this is our 5th year. When I think of marketing and technology driving engagement, take it back to the fundamentals, right? Like, data is the byproduct of technology. With data, you can monitor something. When you're monitoring something, you can measure it, and then you can optimize it, right? And in this world of, this really loud marketplace where all of our customers are being marketed to and sold to in such a massive way, it's really hard to break through that clutter. And the only way you're going to do that is if you can speak directly to them in the form of just being hyper relevant and hyper specific to their needs, wants, and desires. And in order to do that, you have to make hypotheses about what that is. Hypotheses around what is the message, what is the media mix, what's that execution look like, and you're going to sort of execute on that hypothesis, and you're going to see what works and what doesn't based on the data that you're able to gather and optimize from there. So it's at its fundamentals, at its core, it's that data that comes from the technology that allows you to get hyper specific to speak more directly to your audience.
Thanks, Ryan. So to me, it just sounds like a lot of distractions, and there's so many options that are just in my face, and where do I even get started when I'm considering technology to get my customers engaged with my company?
I guess I'll start. I really think it comes down to just the basics of marketing. I see a lot of people kind of be attracted to the shiny tech object of, hey, this is going to solve all of my problems. I'll be able to just really ramp up my marketing and my sales, and they jump into it without making sure that they have the basics covered of, is your brand and your brand message as strong as it could be, and is it resonating with the audiences you're going after? There's no reason to pour fuel on the fire if you're not resonating already. You're just going to add more noise and waste your money. So it's both your brand, but also kind of your frameworks of how you go about marketing, and what is your buyer's journey, or what are the touch points that you might be having with your audiences already, and building kind of some of those processes out before you apply technology to it. I know from personal experience, we at PFL, as we were transitioning our business to selling SaaS technology from our old way of marketing of e-commerce, was a huge change. But instead of getting the groundwork solid, we jumped on to, okay, we just have to start using technology. And we ended up having to rework the wheel a lot, and things were moving way slower than our CEO and everybody else wanted, because we had these important business decisions that needed to be made and theories that needed to be tested, and we just didn't have the time to do that before launching with our automation. So another thing would just be to, before you add technology, is really think through, what does success look like? because there's nothing worse than adding a large technology spend to your budget and not knowing how you're going to prove ROI. So those are some of the lessons learned that we had in using technology ourselves, and we continually come back to what are the basics of marketing? Do we have this in control before we put some fuel on the fire?
So adding a good platform and making sure your branding's on point and making sure that the product that you're delivering is kind of a foundation that's built on before you make this big investment in technology. And
yeah, before you scale, make sure that you're scaling the right things.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that the first place to start is using technology to create some order and organization to your funnel. So back to the point of like just the first principles of like the funnel is very simple. If you just think in terms of we want to make people aware of the product, to make them interested, and then engage with us. If you have product market fit in some basic level and you have some active customers, just starting at that basic framework of what is that customer journey, kind of what's the hypothesis of what do we think it looks like, and then building up the systems that are even maybe like whether you're using MailChimp or Salesforce or whatever it might be, so you can actually start kind of capturing those leads and tracking your customers through conversion in kind of an organized way. Because I think to your point, if you chase the shiny thing, you do need a hypothesis where you kind of has your instinct as a business owner or a marketer hypothesis about who is the right market, who's the right customer, what's the right kind of tribe or market that you're trying to reach. How do you think the media mix or sort of like multi-touch kind of engagement will look like? Test it out, A/B it, and kind of then let the data actually drive your decision making. The one thing that I think I've found over and over is that often we're just wrong. And so if you go and spend a lot of money against whatever the new shiny thing is, a good example of this is it just recently, there's been this long process over the last year. It's been kind of discovered that about 2 years ago, probably longer, maybe 4 years ago, was really this transition to where video on Facebook, video ads on Facebook really changed the entire marketing industry. And it turns out that the engagement numbers were not accurate for Facebook. So literally changed probably the direction of billions of dollars from the big guys to little companies. At the time, I was working at a company called GetAround, and it actually was really effective for us. So we lucked out, but I'm sure big companies just said, okay, well, this is what we're seeing to be the direction of the industry. They go and, ramp up a big brand campaign with Wyden and Kennedy, throw a few $1 million against it. You can lose a lot of money really, really rapidly that way. Same is true with kind of just the kind of table stakes of, Google ads and Facebook ads and stuff. It can become a really, really important driver for your growth, but it can be really dangerous, to your point, if you don't have a sense of what the potential lifetime value of your customer is. So then you can work back to say, what should my cost to acquire a customer be? And then what should my cost per lead be, so that it actually models into a pretty decent marketing funnel. And if you don't do that up front, then you can waste a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. Having that foundation in place first before you figure out what you want to go start testing, because it's such a sexy conversation, right? Like marketing technology, and there's so many things you can do, and there's so many tools out there and widgets and gadgets and things to play with that it's really compelling and really easy to just get ahead of yourself and start signing up for all of these tools, and you'll get a lot of data back, and you're not really going to be entirely sure what to do with it, right? So starting from that, like, core marketing objectives, build that foundation, and then just I guess just to use a very sort of tactical example of where to get started, even just doing something as simple as, right, like, okay, so you've got a marketing campaign that you want to execute on, and just taking that campaign and splitting it out into two audiences. Like, there's two sort of like customer profiles that would be interested in your product or service. Like, think about, sort of running two side-by-side campaigns, reaching each one of those audiences separately, and driving them to a separate landing page that speaks to them differently, and then monitoring engagement on those landing pages. Maybe split testing the call to action on one page versus the other page, and then optimizing from there, right? Like, that's a very sort of, relatively easy thing to go execute on, and to then start using data to make decisions around, reaching one customer profile with one message versus one customer profile with a different one, testing call to actions and see which one engages better, and then optimizing from there is a very sort of, easy thing, but also something that most people aren't doing because they're getting hung up in some of the sexier stuff and they're losing sight of the fundamentals.
Great, thank you. So you brought up MailChimp, Salesforce, Facebook, Google Ads. What are some of the other technologies or tools that are out there and the ones that you like?
Not to pander, but I'm actually a huge fan of direct mail.
Direct mail?
Yeah.
I was going to say, DFL solutions?
No, well, like I think if you get back to we kind of would make this joke internally. A lot of companies, whether it's a physical product or a SaaS company, we'll generally start as a B2C company and then kind of become a B2B or a B2B2C company because generally start focusing on enterprises. And so there'd be some kind of disagreement on whether this is consumer marketing or enterprise marketing. And my instinct on everything is generally like, you're marketing to a human, right? Like what would you actually respond to as an individual who is bombarded with a bunch of noise every single day? So I think if you get back to the point of it's data driven, and then also once you have customers, customer driven, ask your customers like, hey, why did you buy that thing we sold you? Because you're often wrong about what you thought it was. Then being able to tell a compelling story through whatever medium you think will actually reach them. I think the most dangerous thing is a lot of the tools that can set you up for scale, which is really the kind of the core growth platforms of Facebook and Google Ads and YouTube. It can get really, really expensive, particularly for small businesses. So I think stepping back and with a strategy of saying, what do we think our total addressable market is? What are kind of the tribes of decision makers within that market? And just try to really narrow it down so you can kind of start small, saturate, and own a market, and then go from there. That's what the businesses that I've come from all happen to be kind of based in marketplaces or in cities. And so the market's kind of decided for you. It's like, this is the city. The decision makers are inside of the sphere. So it's a little bit easier. But I think if it's a SaaS company, I'd be curious what you guys think. Because it's a little
I just want to be clear, your preference is just direct mail marketing?
No. What I would say is like it just depends on what you think your market and what the tribes within that are. For in what I found in the past, both with GetAround and WeWork, we'd spend a lot of money on digital, but the most powerful things for us was actually in-person sort of field marketing.
Yeah, okay.
Because you can actually get in front of real people, and importantly, you can bring your actual customers. At GetAround, a lot of our early salespeople actually were early, what we call owners, our customers who were sharing cars on the platform, because they were the best ones at selling the value proposition because it was real and authentic. But what we found actually was direct mail was really effective because you could reach people in a hyper scalable way, but in a very localized way with like kind of large format, beautiful art in a cost effective way that as a small startup, we couldn't afford a billboard or TV ads and stuff like that.
LumenAd is in the world of paid media, right? Advertising. But we're the first people to say that advertising is not the right answer for every business. It's the right answer for some businesses, but it can get very expensive very quickly. And not to mention the fact that in digital channels, there's so much noise there, right? That it's very hard to do digital the right way because of so much fragmentation. And there's so many sort of siloed platforms and channels and everything that makes that so difficult. Direct mail, especially now that it's getting more customizable and more personable, is an excellent channel to sort of like break through and reach your customers where a lot of other people aren't really reaching them right now.
And it might be on the awareness piece rather than final decision. My personal view is the best marketing tactic, if you can get there, is once you actually have customers, is the bottom of the funnel of referrals. Because if you can create a pretty solid referral product, you see every consumer app you use, right? You have this, if it's Lyft or Uber or whatever, it's like you'll see a give and a get, give $10, get $10 sort of thing. So at GetAround, it was double-sided marketplace. We created a referral product that would do that both for like refer someone to share their car or refer someone to rent a car. And that became increasingly, it was one, you control the cost per acquisition. So it is definitely the preferred sort of and controlled way to scale a business. And with WeWork as well, we've recently rolled out a similar sort of give-get where you refer a friend and they get like first month free, you're able to get up to $5,000 in cash. And so that when you can motivate humans to actually say, like, because one, if they're actually a customer who is happy with the product and the experience, they want to tell their friends anyway. But if they can give something to them and it motivates them and then their incentive to actually get a reward, you open up all those networks for free because the most powerful channels in the world are text messages, emails, and word of mouth from your friends because there's trust and kind of some social trust and pressure that you can activate.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you on the word of mouth just being so important and having that solid foundation of your brand that somebody wants to spread the word of mouth about. I also wanted to touch on the value of multi-channel as well and how your channels work together. So ads might be a great thing in addition or running at the same time of some of your email outreach or some of your direct mail outreach. And like we always try to advise our customers that you don't just send direct mail or you just don't send an email and wait for the leads to come falling in. You need to be persistent and make sure that your channels are working together. So you might send direct mail, but you're following up with that upon delivery with an email outreach, with phone call, with a LinkedIn request. You have banner ads with the same theme and messaging playing at the same time. And all of those kind of work together to capture someone's attention and to remind them of your brand. But you don't have to start with all of them at once because that can seem daunting as well. So, start a channel and see what early wins you're getting from it and what things you're learning, and then add in another channel and seeing how the two are working together and how they're pushing or guiding, I should say, someone along the journey that you want them to go down. Because everyone's going to have a different journey with your brand. They might hear of you from a referral, but then life gets busy, then they end up seeing you on an ad, and then they get something in the mail or in their inbox, and it all works together to help them think about your brand and hopefully move forward with you.
What's been your favorite campaign and how did you implement it?
I guess I'll start on that. It's a favorite, and I think it's applicable here because it's something that we automate, but it comes back to the point of making sure that you really know your audience and that you're speaking to them and you're sending something at the right time versus sending a mass message to everybody through the automated platform or through whatever technology you might have. And it is direct mail because we're biased there a little bit, but we know our audience and their pain points of just struggling to get through, to get someone to pay attention to their marketing that's digital. And so we send a little damn it doll. That's just a little stuffed doll that you can whack on the table or on a coworker or whatever.
A damn it doll?
A damn it doll. So just damn it, I put my heart and soul into this marketing and into my brand, and no one is looking at it or paying attention, and I'm frustrated. And we hear that from our customers, and so that we know there's everybody, not everybody, but many like them in our target audience have a similar pain point. So we use that to open up the conversation and kind of be empathetic and say, hey, we get you. We know you are a great marketer, and we know it's frustrating when you're not getting the responses that you should be getting and the results you should be getting. Take your frustrations out with this doll and then call us because we can help you. And then we had ads and email and sales outreach all coordinated with that. And it's something it's evergreen, which is also nice. We set it up once, we tested, we iterated, and now it just runs. Our sales reps can add someone into the program, and everything is automated for them and tells them when to do a personal follow-up. So it's nice that we can just set it and watch the results come in, and it's fun because it's a damn it doll.
A damn it doll.
I use it personally many times a day for other reasons, and I should have brought some to spread around.
Yeah, you should have.
Yeah.
Damn it.
How about you, Ryan or Padden? What's been one of your favorite campaigns, and how did you implement it?
A damn it doll is really hard to follow. Although, again, we sort of live in the advertising space. We sell to businesses, right? So we're in the B2B space. So although what we're really good at and the software that we build supports this workflow, we actually don't really use advertising to acquire customers, right? Because in the B2B space, that's not really the preferred channels. So one of the things that we've started doing as of late is this more sort of like account-based marketing, right? Which is we're going to market to a customer of one. Again, because in the B2B space, when the lifetime value of your customer is high enough, you can just sort of you don't have to market to the whole universe. You can say, we know exactly who the customers are that we should market to, and we're going to go do that. And again, we're in a marketing technology conversation here, but there's actually not a lot of marketing technology involved in this account-based marketing when you have the benefit of having these high lifetime value customers because you can brute force it and it's manual. But you can do so much research on the companies that you want to reach out to, and you can reach out to the decision makers, the executive, and the champions, and you can multi-thread these conversations, and you can start with direct mail pieces that are just sort of upper funnel, and you can slowly move into more sort of engagement channels and then direct response channels, and then kind of like, again, just multi-thread this one customer to and be so relevant and speak their language so much and know exactly what their pain points are that the success there is very high. But again, that's not a tactic for every type of business. It's well suited for B2B.
I think to follow up on that might be applicable to those in the audience today is sometimes with technology we think, I just need to send 10,000 people this message and I'm going to see results. And I think you guys as well can see the reverse of that is what if we focused in our message and our marketing to 100 people or even down to 10 and just made sure that we were nailing that message to that audience. You're going to see more success that way than the blanket message to the 10,000. And that's kind of the reverse of thinking that B2B marketers are having right now. And I think it's getting back to how do we connect on a smaller scale, but also still ramp that up so that we're able to have more intimate communications once we know that our message and our audience is the right fit.
How about you, Padden?
Yeah, I'd say one of the kind of growth tactics that I am in a kind of nerdy way I'm most passionate about are the referral engines because they can really drive exponential growth. But since we already talked about that, I think to kind of carry on with kind of this conversation of B2B, what's interesting, before I was asked to take on this role, I was leading public policy and social impact for us. And so a lot of what I was building out for the company was our platform for the future of work and future of cities. And some of that was partnerships and research with the Aspen Institute. And things like that you might think are separate and distinct from your brand or marketing and your desire to grow the business. But what we found is, and similar to what you're saying, the universe of decision makers when it comes to Fortune 1000 companies is much smaller. So what we actually, and because we are a business that is city by city by city, we've been doing kind of much more intimate dinners and kind of town squares and town halls around the future of work in cities in those specific places with the mayor, chambers of commerce, and then CEOs and heads of real estate from the companies that we are in partnership with already. They're already customers, or we want to kind of attract. And the entire process has that at no point do we actually sell the product or the company at all, but you take really smart people and put them in a room and activate people around. Here's what we're finding. Here's what the data that we found with Aspen is showing of what the challenges in the city are. Let's try to solve a lot of these problems together. And what ends up happening is, one, they're inside of our house, and they actually see the WeWork space and the product. But two, everyone's a person first. And so in the same way that this event, everyone here, a lot of the conversations end up being about companies, but so much of the conversation is about how can we come together to uplift Montana. And that is true in every community. And I think to the extent that your mission and your vision for your company is aligned with uplifting the community in which you serve, you start speaking to each other as people and as humans. And definitely in a B2B way, that's a little bit easier because the universe is smaller. But in a consumer setting, it's much broader. So personally, that's the stuff that I really love to do because it pulls together sort of kind of growth strategy and what's the bigger thing we're trying to do here? Why are we all showing up trying to hopefully make a little dent in the universe every day?
I know what we're all thinking. We want to know about your biggest disaster that ever happened with marketing and using machinery for it, or just referrals. What's been something that just totally backfired for you?
A lot of things.
Every day.
It's hard to just pinpoint one because there's so many, and that's just the nature of it. You're iterating every day. But the themes throughout those failures that I've seen and that our team started to see is that we fail when we don't realistically have the resources, the manpower to execute the right way on one of these new initiatives, right? So in the spirit of keeping it simple and focus on the stuff that you can do really well and don't get distracted by this shiny object unless you know for sure that you have the time, money, and energy and brain power to do it the right way. It's not going to go well and it's going to be a waste of money. Yeah, I guess that's as simple as that, yeah.
I agreed. My biggest personal failure is overcommitting. And I think we all can tend to do that and think, hey, we're going to launch all these new campaigns. We're going to add this technology. We're going to grow our business X%, and overcommitting and then sometimes making things more complicated than they need to be. And I think where we can simplify things, that the more you can simplify, the better. And my lesson learned is once again direct mail related, but we were doing a kit we send us one sock, not a match, just one sock, and we're playing off messaging of better together. Obviously, the pair is better than the one, but we didn't have the time because of the expectations we put on ourselves to make sure we had enough inventory of all the same socks. So we had 3 patterns we were dealing with and trying to automate all of this. And so with technology, things will go wrong. And that's something you should know. So back to the simplification, we ended up sending someone a polka dot, and then later on they got the stripe. And they'd reply like, okay, like, pretty sure you screwed up here. And we were like, oh no, we were A/B testing to see if we'd get a better response between people who got a match or a mismatch. And yeah, and whacking the damn it doll on our desk. Like, why did we do this to ourselves? We could have got the same message across by sending a complete pair, and or waiting to launch the campaign until we had the right inventory. So we made something way more complex than it needed to be, and we suffered in the end for it.
One of the first big wins and failures I experienced as it relates to marketing was past life at GetAround. So early in the company, it's double-sided marketplace. You need people to share their cars so that other people can rent them. And I had this kind of hunch that if you could establish a relationship with someone with their car, that they share it from day one, that they'll think of it more like a rental car of theirs rather than, like people think of as a vacation home, rather than their personal car. So first experiment we went out with was with a partnership with Smart Car. Smart Car would lease cars for $99 a month. And then the data showed on GetAround that if you shared a Smart Car on GetAround, you could make $600 a month. So pretty simple. We basically went and said, hey, if we team up on this, Smart Car could share in the profits, and you could triple the revenue that you take on these cars. They weren't interested. They just want to lease a bunch. So we did like a $0 down, $99 a month, a little bit different discount. And this is this one success, 2-part failure. We, at the time, maybe had 100 total cars on the platform. This was really early in the company. And so we launched this partnership, and then primarily did the entire launch of the partnership via MailChimp. We had a very large existing email list, and it was hugely successful. And the problem is we had 2 salespeople. And so our ability to deliver on the leads that were coming in was it was great. I broke the company. And my CEO was like, at the time I was the head of BD for this company. He's like, well, now you've learned a lesson. We own every part of the thing. But so that was great. But then once we got through that kind of initial batch, I was like, okay, well, now all we need to do is run Facebook and Twitter ads against this. And we spent a lot of money very quickly, and that almost had no return. And because the difference between that email list that we had of people who already knew they were all our renters, frankly, who knew how the product worked, knew everything about it, they were aware of us, understood it, and probably intrigued, compared to just showing someone, hey, you can buy a car and share it on this platform and then share it to someone. Like the journey that someone would have to go through that rapidly to make that decision is just not possible. And so luckily we didn't put that much money against it, but basically wasted every dollar. And that was the first time I've ever touched the stove, so to speak, on Twitter and Facebook ads. I was like, wow, this is a powerful machine, but you have to be really, really careful with it.
Sounds like a lot of overcommitting with resources, mind power, and overcomplicating with some of it. How do you stay relevant to your customers?
For me, it's remembering that there's still people in the B2B space. As a marketer, I see a lot of messages. We send a lot of messages, and you can quickly see marketers getting into marketing speak and remembering, like, hey, like I'm just talking to my future brother, cousin, whatever you're going to be. Yeah. It's just another person, and how do I connect with them? And it comes back to me. Relevance is both knowing your audience, being empathetic to their pain points, their dreams, their wishes. And I think timing is another huge component of relevance. You might have the right message for someone, but if it's sent to them at the wrong time, it's not going to go anywhere. So it's kind of a balance of the timing. And if you do have data that you can help inform that timing, or you're throwing out a hypothesis and testing, you can fine tune on when you send someone something or serve them something or ask for something, and then make sure that you're asking in a way that's not automation robotic.
Step one is you just really have to know your customer, right? Like an intense understanding of your customer, their decision-making process, and their pain points, right? LumenAd is, just going through this transition from services to software because we saw that, we started as a services-based company, and at the time that was a valuable service, but the industry matured, and, our core offering was largely commoditized and not really differentiated. And so the value that we were bringing into the marketplace and the problems that we were solving for our customers were, marginally incremental compared to, the people, our competitors doing it, right? And so, but in that process, we found out that there's this much larger problem. And, we had built software to make our own lives easier. And in sort of like taking a step back and being like, no, ultimately, to stay relevant here, we need to, really solve these hard problems that people are struggling with and what our customers are struggling with. And let's sort of iterate and, go through the painful process of switching from services to software to ultimately get there. And it's a process that's still going on, but ultimately, like, when we think of like staying relevant, it's like, making sure that you're iterating and, staying ahead of the market.
Yeah, I think to touch on both the timing and listening to your customers, I think where technology can be helpful is the most frustrating thing. And again, if you come back to like, I think you point about speaking as though you're speaking to a human is really important, because we are all inundated with noise, and I'm sure all of your LinkedIns are filled with like very long sales emails. You're like, you just kind of wish you could sit down with these guys and be like, why did you do, like, who is this written for? It, but for us, really, and I think in a lot of businesses, there are kind of buying cycles where the decision maker knows they might need to buy technology, or in our case, there is an entire team that needs to launch in a new market or get a new office, and it's all about timing, and the timing often doesn't perfectly line up. And so the extent to which your digital presence is set up so that it's very relevant and helpful to them to actually make an informed decision, and they can kind of shop and they know what the value proposition is. And then two, the extent to which you can make sure that there's a trusted human connection. The most important part of all of this is the salesperson. That then makes it so that, it might be that Sam doesn't need a location right now, but she calls back in 3 months because she has a relationship with the person and it is authentic, and then it's closed, right? So that's very important. And then on the second part of on listening to the customer and staying relevant, WeWork started really for freelancers and startups because the real estate marketplace just does not account or even know how to deal with these sorts of businesses and workers. And so at the time, Adam and Miguel, it wasn't that complicated. They just basically went to their landlord who owned this building, and they're like, can we just make this not suck? And like, sure. And so they made a community, and then what happens, right, is some of these businesses start to grow. It's just like one of the great stories about all the businesses I hear about in Montana is the problem is that they're growing too fast, and they're growing out of all their office space, right? But so what happened was these small businesses then became medium-sized businesses, became large businesses, and the needs just shift. And so there are kind of basic needs like, hey, actually we need private offices. We still want to be connected to community, but we need private offices with private conference rooms within them. And then it kind of changes the way that you think about, all right, if we're going to redesign an entire building, then we want to have an interesting SKU mix of office sizes within that. But then all these other things that you might not think about if you're an insurance company and you're dealing with health records, or if you want your own servers, if you want like all of these different levels of privacy and personalization, the only way you're going to learn that is just by listening. And then it's true as a SaaS company as well. You then start creating features, but it's this balance of you kind of have to 80-20 the thing of where the opportunity is, because you can't make bespoke features for everyone. But often, if you hear it a few times, it probably means that the other companies cross-industry need similar stuff. So it's not complicated, but just listening and being readily available and not getting in the way with noise. Some of the mistakes that we've made is if you start to create processes and systems that then become non-human, the copy ends up sounding non-human and product markety. And then also you get these like drip campaigns that are a little too aggressive and they're happening constantly. It's like, just back off. Like, I will be in touch when it's time. So that would be, those aren't really tech answers. Those are just human answers. But
let's get the power of listening and I think listening is a pretty accurate answer of staying relevant to customers.
Yeah, I think just asking, making the ask. With printing for less, print was slowly or quickly dying. And we went to our customers and said, what pain points are you having? How can we help you? It's really our customers who've taken us where we've gone, because we built everything based on what our customers have asked for. And we're not giving, every wish is not granted, but we're listening and we're taking it all into account. And then weighing it against other customers. Hey, this customer said that they need this in their business, and this is how we could propose to help them. Would this benefit you? And they might say yes, but if you do it this way, that'd be even better. So it's both in listening to your customers for how you should do your marketing and your sales, but also where you should take your business and your product, and making sure that's relevant is just talking to people about it. You might think, oh, this is my brainchild, my baby. I really love it. It's gonna work. And but you haven't tested it against anyone yet, and you might spend a lot of money and then find out that no one else likes your baby.
Yeah.
Where do you see other businesses fall short?
I can start again on this one. I think it comes back to relevance, but then also data. So I'll sometimes receive a message that's like, hey, Dave, we think you'll really like XYZ. And I'm like, what? Delete. You don't know me. You just lost the opportunity. I think we're all, as consumers, we expect people to know us. And when they don't, we immediately dismiss them and will likely not consider them until farther down the road when they up their game. But it comes back to your LinkedIn messages of just getting the same message, different person, different companies, repeating because they've seen other people write it this way. And if you don't have the right data as well, both collections from your customers, but maybe data you've gained from technology or that you're putting into your technology, if you don't have systems and processes in place to maintain that data, it's going to be hard to provide relevant experiences to your customers. You might have an awesome message, but you're intending it to go to Sam and you send it to Dave, that's an immediate no-no. We've seen that at PFL as we were rapidly implementing these technology solutions for ourselves. It became the Wild West, and we didn't have concrete processes or rules on how we would structure our data, how we would maintain it, and very quickly became this hairy beast that we then had to come back in and do a lot of damage control of how do we clean this up, what processes, people do we put in place. I think people might assume that technology means less work, and I would say it definitely does not. There still needs to be a lot of dedicated resources and usually cross-functional resources that need to make decisions about how you're using the technology and maintaining your data.
Yeah, I mean, thanks to technology, it's now possible to get very, very specific in your targeting in terms of demographic targeting, behavioral targeting, in-market targeting. And there's a tendency for marketers to get hung up on the fact that it's really exciting to be able to get really specific in how specific you can get these campaigns. But we're finding ourselves regularly reminding people that just because you can reach a specific person doesn't mean they necessarily care about what you're selling. You still have to think about the marketing fundamentals. And Padden, as you mentioned in this, in your example of this car sharing concept, you threw too much information at them at once, right? And that was too much to process within an ad on their computer screen, right? We are regularly encouraging people to think about these campaigns and in traditional sort of marketing funnel tactics, right? You need to have a branding campaign, an awareness campaign. Before you can tell somebody to buy something, they have to know who you are and what you're about and what you stand for, right? And so don't ask somebody to buy something until you've sort of layered in until you're certain they know who you are and your position in the market and what differentiates you from your competitors and whatnot. It's only then can you sort of hit them with those direct response style messages to buy now.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd say getting back to just good core principles of good storytelling, make it clear, to your point, who you are, what the product is, what you stand for, and then the failure that I've seen, this is part of just growth. At basically every company that I've ever been in, I've seen this happen, and all of my friends communicate it as well. As businesses are growing, and they don't stop to say, okay, now it's time to reorganize and restructure. It's true on the engineering and product side of any company as it is on the marketing side. But what ends up happening is you get it's like a drip castle of different tools and stuff. And so I'd say one of the things that gets really messy really fast if you don't get control of it is getting discipline of your CRM, whether it's whatever you use, if it's Salesforce or Close.io or if you're using MailChimp, because I've gone and helped in some of the support work I do with smaller startups and stuff, gone and helped people with some of their marketing campaigns, and their they'll have like a MailChimp database, but there's just thousands of different lists, and they've probably hit people multiple times with different things. Like, you've just guaranteed that none of these people want to ever hear from you again, right? Because it's just like you've just run around a neighborhood and knocked on everyone's door. You're like, just slow down. And importantly, someone's probably responded to you and you're like, hello, and then you didn't get back to them. So I honestly think keeping things simple of get your funnel clean and organized, whatever system it is you use, just stick to one, use it, and then come back to basic principles of top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, and what are the goals at each stage? What are we trying to actually achieve? At what price are we trying to achieve that? And in that way, it kind of keeps you looking at a forest level rather than, it's very easy to drop down into the trees and you get really excited about stuff that is, you might have a kind of a tactic that then you mistake for a strategy and you waste a bunch of time.
Last question, and I want to know real quick, what is the one takeaway that everybody should write down before they leave this room that you would offer?
I hate to beat a dead horse, but keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, I've said it, but the basics of marketing.
Keep it simple, basics of marketing. So keep it simple, don't overcommit, and all the ideas that we mentioned earlier with complicating manpower, financial, and then back to basics with branding.
Yeah, make sure you have the basics of your branding, your message, your funnel, and before you spend money on scaling that.
Yeah, I would say speak like a human.
Speak like a human. While technology has arguably secured its presence in the marketing world and future innovation, the importance of establishing authentic connections and nurturing those relationships continues to define successful campaigns and forecast the fails. Cultivate social trust, remind the experts. Put a face on your customer and let your customer market your business. As word of mouth still unbelievably holds dominion, panelists respectively echo the marketing mantra of the past and ironically the cyber-infused future. Speak like a human and keep it simple.
This episode was commissioned by the Montana Governor's Office of Economic Development and Innovate Montana Symposium.
This episode was brought to you by the City of Bozeman, 10 Directions, Hatch, the Yellowstone Theological Institute, Montucky Cold Snacks, the Nova Cafe, Zocalo Coffee House, Whistle Pig Korean, Dean Zesty Booch, Bliss, the Sola Cafe and Market, Shank Construction, Ben Johnson Photography, Loken Productions, Superfluous Industries, and Blunderbuss. A shout out to our editors and media team, Pat Loken, Jessup Sandoval, Allison Gregory, Shannon Hughes, Jessica Byerly, Jacob Desch, Nathaniel Johns, and Nicholas Hill. Do you have an issue that's riddled by gridlock in your community? We want to hear from you. Shoot me a message at tate@iaminterchange.org. That's tate@iaminterchange.org. Until next time, share airtime and don't ruin dinner.